Hey guys, I wanted to do an update just to let you know what's going on, what to expect in the next few months as we take a closer look. But also I've gotten a few emails where people have said, I thought you said it was going to be a landslide, huge win. And my answer to that is yes, it still is. And it's being obscured by the grand deception of the Neptune, Hades, Pluto in the fall equinox chart. Remember, the fall equinox chart gives us an overview of this quarter, so September to winter solstice, December 21st. And this structure is telling us about this metamorphosis that is happening. It is biblical, and we are actually in it. We are actually part of it. We will all be seeing it and experiencing it. And it tells us about this rooting out of the darkness, of what is toxic and no longer serves. But there are massive ambiguities, massive deception, and these invisible forces battling it out with the Neptune Hades. So Red Candidate did win this election, and this will be uncovered in the coming weeks and months. And we are entering this phase where these are cataclysmic times where the truth is being exposed to the masses. And it's not only the disclosure of the blue candidates' massive cheating in the election, and I believe it'll be the kind of extensive cheating that has permeated, perhaps every single state. But I think that we will be getting proof, and I had mentioned this in the last videos, proof in some way, shape, or form with that Zeus Poseidon on the world axis, and the collective will see the truth. And also all of mainstream media will have to fall because they are who stands in the way between the truth and the people. And so you're going to be seeing some very interesting tactics by mainstream media. The suppression is going, and the censorship is going to get absurd. And I even think that you may see, you're already seeing certain broadcasters making an exodus from their platforms. So all of mainstream media is changing as well. It is said that this is a sting operation and has been part of Red Candidate's war strategy, and I believe this to be the case. He is the mastermind of swaying the collective unconscious, and this is the kind of event that would be cataclysmic. Cataclysmic where you have the population who would have to look and see the truth in all the cheating of this election, and that it's irrefutable, it's indisputable. And so Red Candidate is showing them. He's showing them the truth of the real reality, which is one of corruption, evil, darkness. And in doing that, people start to use their own intuitions, their own critical thinking, their own personal power as to what truth and the nature of reality is in the world. So what you're seeing with Blue Candidate is not going to hold. Blue is being held up in the spotlight because he is the face of darkness and deception. There is so much illusion and deception in Blue's chart. It's just incredible. And I know I said that before, but it's manifested as this great deception. And I honestly think that not only is Blue doing the deceiving, but I think he is deceived as well with this entire matrix system carrying him across the finish line. So, what you're seeing, particularly if you're woke, what you're seeing is the biggest gaslighting operation in the history of the world. I mean, it has been all along with the virus, and now with the election, although now everyone's really going to, the house of cards is coming crumbling down. That's what this period of time is all about. And so we could look at the various structures, the various planetary pictures in Blue's chart, and you'll see this continual theme with the Neptune. We have the Aries Neptune around his meridian, which is the soul, and the Neptune transiting that area. There's tremendous deception, both within himself and out in the world. Sun Kronos Neptune on his progressed meridian. This is the structure of can be the structure of officials or government that is deceptive. It can mean fallen leadership. It can mean confused leadership. It could also mean spiritual leadership, but this is not what is going on. This is not the chart of the Dalai Lama. So what we also have is on the progressed sun, and that is in this 3-point picture, Sun Chronos in a 3-point picture with Neptune. We can move to his natal sun, and again you see on the 22.5 mark, we've got Aries Neptune there as well, and we also have a lunar eclipse in the same area of his progressed meridian on November 30th, and that is on his Aries Neptune sun structure. So deception in his chart, deception and illusion abounds. And we could also take a look at Kamala's chart around election time, and you could see the Sun Apollon structure, which can be really positive expansion and success, but it's in this structure, directed structure with Neptune Vulcanus. And so this can be uncertain, fake or make-believe or illusory success. And with the transiting Chronos and this incredible alignment here, we have a similar situation to that of Biden with the Neptune and the Chronos and the Sun, in that we're looking at fake or false government idols. So the dark faction is setting up and attempting to gaslight a nation as to a fake win. So this is a battle for the consciousness of the people, which is why red candidate must show the people the nature of this false reality. And you're going to see this entire old paradigm, old structure come down as we move forward. And everything and anything that lacks truth and integrity is going to come out. You're going to see arrests of very high-profile officials in the coming months ahead with the Hades Chronos Neptune. That is absolute. That's going on for several months, and it's already started. And you will also see the takedown of mainstream media and any and all structures that are supporting the dark faction, the shadow government, within the government or outside the government, corporations, social platforms, search engines, you name it. This is the cataclysmic event that is upon us. So as we move forward in the next few months, I want to try to line up the planetary pictures as to what we might be seeing. The first 2 weeks of November, we basically have these two structures, Jupiter, Zeus, Pluto, and also, node Neptune Hades. Now, the Jupiter, Zeus, Pluto represents positive growth and development, the beginning of new things. It can also be the expansion of the garbage. So for many, this is a celebration of the blue candidate's win, but it's also the expansion of the deception and the garbage. But likewise, it is also telling us of the positive growth and development in terms of the truth and the special operations going on there. Because if you remember, in the fall equinox, I talked about Mars Admetos and how that there were a lot of tremendous amount of special operations going on, nefarious and benevolent. And so the other structure we have going on these first 2 weeks is node Neptune Hades. There are people in total deception and not seeing clearly as to the nature of the way things really are. Even those who are woke and understand the whole situation, right after the election, there was all this disappointment and confusion. And so I even heard Roseanne Barr say in some video the other day, people have been tricked into thinking there are no laws, and because mainstream media has called an election, and she's correct. This is part of the manipulation, because mainstream doesn't call it, the electoral college does. So what you'll see in the coming months is the slow and steady progression of the disclosure. but also this incredible resistance and this covering up and suppression and obstacles and, a real bottleneck of energy between the truth and the lies. And that will hit a breaking point of no return where the truth is out there and those resisting it are going to have to acknowledge it. And that's going to be a very, very hard thing to face, because it means that the truth of your entire reality is not what you think it is. So there are three main structures coming in to view into orb in the next month. First, we have Saturn and Mitos. Now, Saturn and Mitos is coming strictly in between mid-November and mid-December, and it's a conjunction and it's strong. And so this will have great impact. Now, Saturn and Mitos, it's like a steamroller energy. It's very persistent, a lot of continuity, great stamina. And I think that what you're seeing is this persistence or steamroller energy on both sides of the light and the dark, or the red and the blue. The Saturn and Mitos can also tell us about bottlenecks of energy, real conflict, real obstacles, real suppression. And I think that it's because you have both of these things operating. The light, you're going to see cases filed in all of these states trying to root out all of this election fraud that is massive. And simultaneously, you're going to be seeing the incredible suppression of the truth through the mainstream media. And, it's really going to go on all platforms. The censorship for sure is going to get intense. And so, trying to keep the truth from the people. And so this is going to fail. But, this is Saturn and Mitos can also be final endings, and who knows what other kind of nefarious tactics they're going to try to use. But, you can already see it happening now in mainstream media, where there are actually broadcasters leaving platforms because they're compromised by the shadow government, and starting on with new news organizations that espouse the truth. I think it's also representative of those who do not see the truth and who have been pledging allegiance to the shadow government, dark faction, blue candidate, and that is going to be harder and harder to ignore. So, a lot of resistance with that Saturn and Mitos as well. And then we have the node Hades with the Hades Kronos Neptune. And these are very important structures because they're both coming into orb right now. But they're also part of the winter solstice chart, which, remember, is the beginning of the solar cycle, and it gives us the overview of the whole year. And these energies, node Hades and Hades Kronos Neptune, also really move into January prime time. So what do they tell us? Well, the node Hades is telling us about the criminal connections, criminal acts, that there's a lot of fear and worry in the collective. And with the Neptune Kronos, Hades Kronos, we have both major fraud and deception coming from higher up officials or the government, the shadow government. But also this tells us about the disillusion and the downfall of government officials. It tells us about, and especially with that Pluto on the fall equinox, so we're getting the knowledge now that this is it. This is, obsolete ideals of the shadow government, the downfall of these higher up officials. And it can also be, by the way, with this Hades Kronos, in a good way, very people who are high up in the government, or just people who are light and humanitarian and who are helping others in unseen ways. And I also want to remind everyone that Zeus and Poseidon, this is going to be awesome, because what it means is that we are getting truth and clarity and proof. And both these planets are beginning a 3-year transit on the world axis. It's back and forth. And the first appearance that they make is actually together at the same time on the world axis in January. Now, what this brings is truth. It brings clarity. It offers proof and evidence to the world and to consciousness of what is going on. And first, at the winter solstice, we have a Mercury Poseidon Aries on the world axis. So this tells us this upcoming year, a lot of discussion related to truth, clarity, insight, but also a lot of talking and communication about new ideals, new ideas, new concepts that are emerging, in this new frontier. I just want to make mention with all of this criminal activity, nefarious activity, we still could be dealing with other tactics, perhaps things with the water and or air. I know during the summer when there were all those fires, pollution became a huge issue. And so, that is not off the table either. So that is a possibility. But I think you're going to see the majority of the energy focused on this rooting out of these high levels of shadow government, and it's going to be extensive. And when we look at Trump's chart, Trump's chart as we move forward, it does indicate all of these expansive, positive directions and progressions as we move into March, and really, depending on his birth time, whether it's 30 seconds off or a minute off, the orb is a couple months either direction. But even here, we could see in Trump's chart, it does indicate all of this expansion. We've got a Jupiter-Pluto progression to his progressed meridian. Remember, the meridian is the soul. So Jupiter and Pluto is very positive for growth and development, as well as the meridian Jupiter conjunction natally with his directed meridian, and then we've got Zeus Kronos Jupiter around his progressed moon. We have a Zeus Kronos Apollon around his progressed and directed sun. So these are all pictures of positive growth and expansion and development, and a lot of expansion in the leadership area. Also worth mentioning, this last piece of information is that his progressed meridian is now moving away from his progressed Saturn. Right now, it's right on it, and for the next 2 months. So this is a lot of hard work that he's in the midst of. We're in the midst of this real change, this reevaluation, this reassessment, this structural change in government. And so I think by the time we get to next year, things will be more set and off in their new direction. Okay, guys, there you have it. Some insight as to the road ahead, and I will be back periodically to give insight, as we move along this path. So blessings, stay strong, and remember that the light has already won.